In Ecuador, the candidates to the presidency and the National Assembly closed their campaigns ahead of the elections of next Sunday, August 20th. In Spain, the Socialist Party secured the support of Catalan nationalists to try to win the first key parliamentary vote since last month's inconclusive general election. And in Ghana, the Economic Community of West African States bloc on Niger, covering the crisis, noted that all member states will join the force except those under military rule and Cape Verde. Hello from the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba. This is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Now we begin with the news. In Guatemala, the presidential candidate for the Semilla movement, Bernardo Arévalo de León, closed his campaign activities for next Sunday's ballot with a crowded meeting in the capital. A few days before the election, thousands of supporters gathered in the main square of Guatemala City to show their support to Arévalo, who focused his campaign on the fight against corruption. The Semilla movement and its candidate were the surprise of the first round of the general elections of June 25th by passing to the runoff, despite not being considered among the first three places in the polls of voting intentions. Meanwhile, on Wednesday, according to the last poll, Arévalo de León leads the voting intention of the Guatemalans with 61%, while his opponent, Sandra Torres, of the Unidad Nacional de la Esperanza, has 39%, according to a poll.
A national anti-corruption system to eradicate this cancer, a painful disease that we have to attack from multiple sides. It is not enough to announce jail for the corrupt. We have to know how to dialogue as a nation, to hear in every corner where we are impoverishing ourselves.
In Ecuador, the candidates to the presidency and the National Assembly closed their campaigns on Thursday in view of the elections of next Sunday, August 20th. The contenders to the presidential chair carry out during this day their last proselytizing activities to convince the Ecuadorians to vote for them before the electoral silence begins, as stipulated by the legislation. In turn, the National Electoral Council informed that those deprived of liberty without an executed sentence will be able to vote in the authorized penitentiary centers. Trade union organizations in Ecuador have demanded that the national government guarantee the security of citizens during next Sunday's general elections. José Villavicencio, the president of the United Front of Workers, at a press conference held by the president of the Workers' United Front, held the executive, the armed forces, and the national police responsible for protecting the participation of Ecuadorians in the voting. He also pointed out that the executive should worry for the first time in 2 years and 6 months of administration in implementing security in the nation. Meanwhile, union leaders agreed that the South American nation had never before experienced the current levels of violence, so there is growing uncertainty about security during the voting. Ecuador is preparing for the general elections scheduled for the 20th of August. Join us as we continue learning more about the candidates running for the country's presidency. This time, we present the profile of Daniel Noboa, who, according to the analysts, made an excellent contribution to the presidential debate on Sunday, 30th of August. Who is he? We will tell you.
Daniel Noboa is a 35-year-old businessman and politician from Guayaquil. He's the youngest of Ecuador's 8 presidential candidates. He's the eldest of 4 sons of billionaire businessman and 5-time presidential candidate Álvaro Noboa.
It is a family known as the richest in the country, and he has no distance himself from his origins, and his agenda reflects that.
Noboa holds a bachelor's degree with a specialization in management and organizational behavior from the University of New York. He also holds a master's degree in business administration. He has the formula of the DNA Alliance, made up by the People, Equality and Democracy Movement and Mover Movement. Ideologically, he says he's in the center.
Productivity in the modern world does not come from the exploitation of labor, but from the combination of respect for workers' rights, training, decent wage, and job stability. And this is the focus of our employment proposal.
In its work plan, it proposes 4 axes. In the social axis, it proposes to implement policies and programs that promote equal opportunities, improve the quality of life, and strengthen community ties. In the economic axis, it seeks to reduce poverty and increase employment opportunities by investing in strategic sectors, improving education and vocational training. In the institutional axis, it is proposed to strengthen public institutions and to promote efficient, accountable, and social management that promotes equality, justice, respect for human rights, and improved services. In the productive and environmental axis, it aims to pave the way for industrialization in these activities linked to strategic sectors.
Daniel Noboa is a candidate who is doing well. I don't think that the numbers and the short time we have in this campaign will give him enough to reach the second round. But I think it could be surprising if his numbers improve and rise in a positive way, because it seems to me that he is one of the few who has understood that it is not enough to talk only about security.
According to analysts, his participation in the presidential debate was one of the most outstanding and well received by the audience.
Perhaps he was the surprise of this debate because he showed a lot of coherence, he showed knowledge of the issues and also clear positions.
In 2019, Noboa is accused by his ex-wife and the mother of his daughter of psychological violence and not respecting visitation and support agreements. His running mate is businesswoman Veronica Abad, a former candidate for mayor of Cuenca. According to opinion polls, the couple are among the last of the 8 candidates.
Elena Rodríguez, TeleSUR, Ecuador.
In other topics, the Venezuelan president, Nicolás Maduro Moros, received the credentials from the designated ambassadors of Chile, Colombia, and France at the Miraflores Palace in Caracas. In the middle of a solemn act, the president personally welcomed the ambassadors of Chile, Jaime Gasmuri, of Colombia, Milton Rengifo, and France, Emmanuel Pineda. The ambassadors ratified their government's willingness to work with Venezuela to continue promoting relations and bilateral cooperation. With the delivery of the credentials of the Colombian ambassador, both nations will work together to reaffirm the will to guarantee security and build a border of peace between Venezuela and Colombia. And Bolivia and Cuba started on Thursday morning in the department of Santa Cruz the 3rd round of talks on migratory issues. The General Director of Consular Affairs and Attention to Cubans residents abroad of the Foreign Ministry of the island, Ernesto Soberon, has the delegation attending the talks in Santa Cruz de la Sierra, the capital of the department of Santa Cruz. A note stated that both parties examine the state of the migratory flow and evaluate the realization of joint actions. The text adds that the delegation also discussed the importance of guaranteeing regular, orderly, and safe travel. The Bolivian representation is represented by Eva Chuquimia, Vice Minister of Institutional Management and Consular Activity of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Indian Amazonian country. And the Bolivian authorities reported on Wednesday that the nation registered a growth rate of 2.3% of the gross domestic product in the first quarter of this year. The Minister of Planning, Sergio Cuquisanqui, confirmed the information and said that Bolivia remains on the path of economic growth, reaching 2.3% in the first quarter of the 2023, driven mainly by domestic demand, which grew more than 10%. Meanwhile, the authorities stated that the sectors of services, transportation and storage, electricity, gas and water, construction, financial establishments were the ones that generated this economic rise. Cusicanqui also warned that this GDP rise is taking place in a regional scenario of high inflation, and in this context, the Bolivian nation maintains an average growth rate and low inflation despite the global situation. On Wednesday, authorities in Costa Rica have confirmed they detected 10 cases of the new EG5 strain of the coronavirus, which causes COVID-19. The Costa Rican Institute for Research and Education in Nutrition and Health warned that this new variant of COVID is more transmissible and has the potential to evade vaccine-generated antibodies. In this sense, they have confirmed the cases were detected in several districts of the province of Punta Arenas. Maria van Kerkhove, the technical manager of the World Health Organization on COVID-19, stated they have not detected a change in the severity of EG5 compared to the other Omicron sublineages that have been circulating since late 2021. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find the news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. In the United States, the death toll from the wildfires in Maui has risen to 111. During a press conference on Wednesday, Hawaii Governor Josh Green announced the latest toll of victims affected by the fire. In addition, he affirmed that rescue teams have managed to examine about 38% of the most affected area. On the other hand, the media NBC reported that a lawsuit was filed against the main utility company of the islands, accusing it of negligence for not shutting down the electric system before the strong winds that hit the islands last week.
It was really surreal. Like, I was still telling my husband, no, that's not our neighborhood, that's not our house. And he said, no, that's our house. You know, it was just hard to really believe that that's what was happening. You know, it still hasn't really sunk in all the way, I don't think. You know, I've seen what's left of my house. There's nothing left, but it just doesn't seem real still.
In Spain, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez's hopes of securing another term in the past received a boost after his Spanish Socialist Workers' Party secured the support of Catalan nationalists to try to win the first key parliamentary vote since last month's inconclusive general election. Despite being narrowly defeated by the Conservative Popular Party, the PP, in an election that resulted in an undefeated parliament, the Socialist Party took the lead in forging alliances to create a coalition government. On Thursday, deputies met for the first time since the July 23rd polls to elect the new president of Congress. Francine Armengol, former regional president of the Balearic Islands and candidate for the Socialist Party for the past, was elected with 178 votes in the 350-seat hemicycle. Relations between the two parties have soared since both failed to meet expectations last month.
The result of the vote is the following. Votes cast 350. 170 votes in favor of Dona Francina Armengol.
And now let's go to another topic. On Thursday, the Union of European Football Associations announced the nominees for Player of the Year of the 2022-2023 season. The award for Best Male Football Athlete will be disputed by Norwegian Erling Haaland, Belgian Kevin De Bruyne, and the world champion Argentinian Leo Messi. The winner of the award will be announced at the 2023-2024 Champions League Group Stage Draw ceremony on August 31st at the Grimaldi Forum Stadium in Monaco. It is worth noting that Messi has won this award twice, and despite his former team, the Paris Saint-Germain, didn't materialize a Champions League trophy, he has the prestige of achieved the FIFA World Champions Cup in Qatar 2022. On the other hand, Manchester City's teammates Haaland and De Bruyne won the European Champions League title. The award recognizes the best athlete playing for an European football club in the previous year. And TeleSUR English launches its own videos on demand site for you to go and revisit our interviews, the top stories, the special broadcastings, and more. Just go to the top left corner in our website homepage and click on the video option to access our VOD platform. And now we will have a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Thursday in Ghana, the Economic Community of West African States discussed Niger's current crisis and noted that all member states will join the force except those under military rule in Cape Verde. In the framework of a two-day meeting among the leaders of Ecowas to discuss the political situation in Niger, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Gawin Musa, assured most of its member states are ready to participate in a standby force that could intervene in Niger. The meeting comes after an August 6 deadline passed for mutinous soldiers to release and reinstate Bazoum or face military intervention. In the meantime, Burkina Faso and Mali warned that any military intervention in Niger would be declared as an act of war, revealing a fracture in the region between its coastal countries and those in the volatile Sahel. In this context, residents of Niger's capital, Niamey, are calling for the mass recruitment of volunteers to assist the army in the face of a growing threat by the West African regional bloc, Ecowas. The initiative, spearheaded by a group of locals in Niamey, aims to recruit tens of thousands of volunteers from across the country to register for the Volunteers for the Defense of Niger. The group will fight, assist with medical care, and provide technical and engineering logistics, among other functions, in case the junta needs help. Regional tensions are deepening as the standoff between Niger and Ecowas shows no signs of diffusing, despite the signals from both sides that they are open to resolving the crisis peacefully.
We don't care about ECOWAS. ECOWAS has been tailor-made for the presidents in power, and we don't need it. Whether ECOWAS intervenes or not, Niger is ready for all options. We are ready. Whatever ECOWAS decides, we are ready.
My children and I love these soldiers, and anybody able to join the army and develop our country are villages. I'm a blessing for these soldiers.
And the African Peace and Security Council, the body responsible for deciding on conflict resolution and implementation of decisions within the African Union, the AU, agreed not to use force against the military council in Niger. According to the French newspaper Le Monde, during the recent council meeting, it was decided, however, to temporarily suspend Niger's participation in AU activities in view of the situation in the country. The meeting maintained a tense atmosphere and lasted for more than 10 hours, but its members recognized that an armed intervention would lead to bloodshed and further damage to the civilian population. And the government of France on Thursday ruled out withdrawing its military forces in Niger, saying it does not recognize the authorities of the African country. The French government explained that the military forces that are in the country respond to a request of national legitimate authorities on the basis of agreements signed with them to fight terrorism. At least 500,000 French troops are in Niamey as part of the Burkina operation deployed in the Sahel, despite the fact that the current military junta that rules the country considers the French presence in the territory undesirable. In this sense, tensions between the two nations escalated with mutual accusations and denunciations of Paris' interest in maintaining control of strategic resources such as uranium and gold from West African colonies. Let's move on to other topics. Israeli forces killed a Palestinian militant and shot a health worker during a raid on the occupied West Bank city of Jenin. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, Mustafa al-Kastouni, 32, was killed after being shot in the head, chest, and abdomen by the Israeli forces during a violent incursion in Jenin. The Israeli army said its forces entered Jenin to detain wanted Palestinians, but provided no immediate comment when asked about the reported shooting of a healthcare worker. The West Bank has seen surge in violence since early last year, with repeated Israeli army raids and violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinian communities.
At a 7:15, we were surprised to see a car stopping at the Asfor Library, followed by a silver car. Then special forces wearing military uniforms got off the car. They abducted two young men from the main street. They were Hassan al-Hasis and Hani Kimba al-Kastouni, the brother of the martyr Mustafa. Then they took them towards this direction and entered the building and killed Mustafa.
Authorities in Pakistan have launched a probe and arrested at least 146 people in the Punjab province after a Muslim mob torched 5 churches and attacked dozens of houses belonging to the local Christian community over claims of blasphemy. Local reports said torn pages of the Quran with alleged blasphemous content written on them were discovered near Jaranwala's Isa Nagri, a Christian colony, triggering a violent outburst against the minority community. The Salvation Army Church in Jaranwala was among the 5 vandalized. Houses, businesses, and graveyards belonging to the Christian community were also targeted as violence gripped the city. Thousands of additional police and paramilitary troops have been deployed to control the violence in the South Asian nation, which has been facing an unprecedented political and economic crisis. And the Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian will pay a one-day official visit to Saudi Arabia on Thursday as part of the process of normalization of relations between Tehran and Riyadh. During the visit, the head of Iranian diplomacy will meet his Saudi counterpart, Faisal bin Farhan, who made an official trip to Tehran in June. Abdollahian will be accompanied by the new Iranian ambassador to the Saudi kingdom, Alireza Nayari, who has not yet taken up his post in the diplomatic delegations of the Persian country. Under the mediation of China, Iran and Saudi Arabia agreed in March to normalize their diplomatic relations, suspended since 2016. This process paved the way for Syria's readmission to the Arab League, in addition to talks between Iran and Egypt to normalize their relations and the peace negotiations in Yemen. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.